Dr. Rajesh Parikh, good evening to you. Could this also be about the way, reports emerge and the kind of cases that we saw in the second wave, emergence of variants like the Delta variant and how we may have been behind the curve in detecting those and reporting to the world that we had found such a variant and how it behaves, a general lack of trust about what's coming from India?
Well, Tanvi, I must confess I'm somewhat amused. I am also a bit surprised, but I'm not astonished. Just to put some context into this, over the weekend I came to France, and at Roissy Airport, they looked at my certificate. We exchanged a few pleasantries for about 2 or 3 minutes, and of course they welcomed me. And being in Paris, I cannot resist quoting Napoleon, who described the English as a nation of shopkeepers. Now they graduated a lot beyond that by looting the world, but post Brexit, I think we have to empathize with them. They've become brokers and traders again. They're agents now working on behalf of countries like the United States, selling submarines to the Australians. And in that context, I think we should be a little compassionate in understanding the absurdity and the stupidity of British behavior. It just highlights, how awkward they have been about this whole thing. It's like the equivalent of saying that, of course, I recognized your nationality. You're welcome to my country, but I do not recognize your passport. Maybe there are other undercurrents below all this. But, just a polite reminder to the English who are listening in, most of their bureaucrats and ministers, love traveling in Jaguar cars and in, Land Rovers, and I'm sure they sip on Tetley tea. I think they just needed to be reminded what was the status of these companies before the Tatas took over and gave them a dignified platform across the world. I think the British need to adapt to the post-Brexit reality, the real politic. And I think it's just bravado to try and lecture to India that, oh, this is not racism. Whoever comes from India has a problem. We don't trust your certificate. I mean, come on.
So you're saying, Dr. Parikh, there is no scientific cause for concern that any country could have about the variants that exist there or the way the cases went up, or even for the fact that if some of their bureaucrat babus ended up reading the stories about fake vaccine certificates in our country and decided, well, the whole country needs to now prove much harder that they actually got vaccinated.
There is concern, Tanvi, except that it's diametrically in the opposite direction. I'd be very concerned about stepping into London. I had the option of going there. I felt safer coming to France. There's considerable mess going on in the UK in terms of COVID. They need to put their house in order. But, that apart, I mean, this is, an issue which the whole world is grappling with. We shouldn't look at it through a parochial lens. But in these times, to negotiate this, to kind of broker this, as they did 200 years ago when they came to trade in spices in India, that, okay, now we're giving you this much. We recognize this vaccine, which we were not recognizing earlier. But we don't recognize your certificate, as I pointed out earlier. That's, saying I don't recognize your passport. So I really don't understand all this. Yes, there may be concerns, of course, legitimate concerns. And these are across the world. I don't think it's only Indians who can hack into the CoWIN app and produce a certificate for themselves. This can happen across the world in today's days of technology. A 16-year-old sitting in a classroom can do this kind of thing. But there are ways of dealing with this rather than putting a blanket quarantine on anybody who comes from here for 10 days. So I think the government is taking an appropriate approach to this. And with just a dash of humor, I might suggest, maybe you should just put Boris Johnson's mugshot on that certificate along with Narendra Modi, and maybe that might solve the problem.
Okay, Dr. Parikh, is there an answer to what Ambassador Malhotra is asking? What's the point of WHO? Does it have any role to play here? At one point, we thought, oh, as long as WHO recognizes the vaccine, all is well.
Oh, very quickly, Tanvi, 3 quick points. I'm in complete concurrence with the ambassador, what the ambassador says. He's absolutely right. But, in terms of recognizing the UA system, I think that might have been fine in the pre-Brexit era. I would be astonished again if they were to go by EU standards, since they're already out of the EU. And perhaps it's not a coincidence that the countries that were mentioned, which have got this, including Morocco, have not been former colonies of the United Kingdom. You might read something to it. But to end on a positive note, Tanvi, I've been twice on your show before. Each time you raised an issue and within 48 hours it was resolved. I'm reasonably confident you're going to hit a hat trick again. And very soon, I think the United Kingdom or whoever kind of is involved in these decisions will take a more rational view of it. And the issue will certainly get sorted out, which seems to be the general consensus of everybody on the panel.